Hey everybody, welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden, second episode today. Surprise episode, we're going to talk about climate change and how the United States is simultaneously going underwater because of rising tides and hurricanes on our coast, and also on fire in the middle and on the west coast. So that's pretty impressive, and that's not the worst of it. All of these events are going to get worse and worse, and there's almost nothing that we can do about it, because we put Joe Biden in office, and he's not going to do a damn thing about it. So I'm going to talk about the fire that has Lake Tahoe on fire, like the ski resort in California. The whole West Coast is on fire, so I'm going to read to you from Common Dreams there. And another article that came out the day before that, Hurricane Ida made landfall and caused absolute devastation in Louisiana. New Orleans was without power. There was massive flooding. 150 mile an hour winds. So we're going to talk about Ida first, and then we'll talk about the fire afterwards, and then I'll tell you exactly what Joe Biden is doing to stop these things and prepare for them in the future. Spoiler alert, it's nothing. Okay, anyway, let's talk about the hurricane. With search and rescue efforts underway and widespread power outages in the wake of Hurricane Ida barreling into Louisiana coast Sunday as a Category 4 storm, the youth-led Sunrise Movement on Monday urged President Joe Biden to declare a climate emergency. Quote, "Today my heart aches for Louisiana and the Gulf Coast. On the 16th anniversary of Katrina, a storm that we may still have not recovered from, families are traumatized by yet another devastating climate catastrophe," said Varshini Prakash, the group's executive director, in a statement. "Let's be clear, this was preventable. It was preventable that New Orleans lost its power. It was preventable that people had to evacuate their homes. It was preventable that shelters faced both a climate disaster and a COVID-19 surge simultaneously. And it was preventable that people would lose their lives, especially poor people and black and brown communities who don't at all have the privilege of evacuating." End quote. Though there was only one confirmed death from Ida so far, both Biden and Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards, a Democrat, said Monday that the number is likely to grow. Quote, what more do politicians need to realize that the climate crisis is here and killing us, said Prakash. The time for incrementalism and watered-down solutions is over. While community members and aid groups provide support to victims of the storm, what is President Biden doing? Biden must declare a climate emergency to mobilize the federal government towards addressing these climate disasters and tackling the climate crisis head-on. We're done with thoughts and prayers, and so are the communities of the Gulf South. We need action now. End quote. The president met on Monday virtually with various leaders of communities impacted by Ida, detailed the federal response to the storm, and promised regional governors and mayors that, quote, "We're going to stand with you and the people of the Gulf as long as it takes you to recover." End quote. Yeah, I'm sure that makes them feel a whole lot better. Donald Trump is doing more than Joe Biden did by simply doing that little free throw he did with the, roll of paper. They're saying we're going to stand with the governors and the mayors. What do you mean? They're saying that they have put aside resources to help with this, yet I haven't seen any details as to what that is. So I don't believe for a second that Joe Biden's going to do a fucking thing. They're not going to. So it's nonsense, and of course we have to call out these politicians on their ineptitude and their lack of doing anything to combat the climate crisis when stuff like this happens, because it's only going to get worse. And this is the stuff that we warned you guys about 10 years ago. We're like, everything's going to get bigger, more frequent. You're going to get bigger hurricanes, more frequent hurricanes. You're going to get bigger and longer wildfires on the West Coast. You're even going to get things like bigger tornadoes, more tornadoes, and we had something in Illinois that I don't think we've had in like 100 years. They're ultra rare. It happened last year, called a Derico, which is just a wave of wind that comes in at like 100 miles an hour, and it's 100 miles long. It's just a wall of wind, and it flattened all of our crops and destroyed everything. It's like a whole bunch of tornadoes in a row, except for they're not spinning. It's just like a tidal wave of wind. And since when? And it's only going to get worse, guys. All of these things are going to get worse. Storms are going to get more lightning strikes and bigger and longer. Hailstorms, the damage caused by landslides. The coasts are going to start becoming underwater. And it's only going to get worse. And Joe Biden's not doing a damn thing. What could he do? He could do the Green New Deal. Bernie's Green New Deal. But he's not going to do that. He could do Elizabeth Warren's Green New Deal, which was like a half measure of Bernie's. Nope. He could even do the thing that he was promising on the campaign trail, which the Sunrise Movement called Biden's Green New Deal. They gave it like a D, a grade of D on an A to F scale. He's not even proposing that. They could do Ed Markey's Thrive Act, which is a half measure on Bernie's Green New Deal, but it's the first step towards getting to eventually maybe that vision in 20 years. It would create over 10 million jobs and help us prevent a lot of this stuff for our kids and our grandkids, but Biden's not talking about any of that stuff. So next time somebody says vote blue no matter who, bitch slap them, because that's exactly what they're getting exactly what they paid for. We try to tell these people that Trump and Biden on climate are essentially the same, and nobody listened. Nobody listened. Biden's giving out plenty of fracking licenses. He's doubling down on fossil fuels and not allowing those to, like, in the upcoming infrastructure bill, for instance, we could go completely to e-vehicles, or at minimum go to completely biodiesel hybrid vehicles and start really slapping down these fossil fuel companies. We're not even doing that. And all of the climate provisions that are in the new infrastructure bill are the first things that are going to get stripped out. They're going to get stripped out. And they were already a quarter measure on a quarter measure. So now let's talk about that. That really hurt a lot of people. Like, of course, they say that the poorest communities, which are primarily black and brown communities, are always hit hardest by these things because they don't have the option to move. Where are they going to go? They're also not in stable infrastructure. They just have to kind of batter down the hatches and deal with it. So, oh God, it's only going to get worse and worse for those people, and I really do feel for them. And I hope nobody else dies, but me thinks that's not going to be the case. I think that death toll will probably go up. Now let's talk about Lake Tahoe. This is the day after. This is also from Common Dreams. California's Calder Fire forced tens of thousands of people to flee South Lake Tahoe on Monday, an extreme weather disaster that experts said provides further evidence of the need of rapidly slash greenhouse gas emissions and transition to clean energy. The Calder Fire, one of 83 large blazes currently torching the U.S. West, has burned more than 191,000 acres and is just 16% contained. The rapid growth of the fire, which began on August 14th, prompted more evacuation warnings over the weekend, and those were soon upgraded to evacuation orders. While nearly 30,000 residents had already been evacuated from the eastern half of El Dorado County, the Sacramento Bee reported, the entire city of the South Lake Tahoe and surrounding areas along the west and south shores were ordered to evacuate on Monday morning, just hours before the Calder Fire entered the Lake Tahoe basin. Most South Lake Tahoe evacuees were on the road by 11 a.m. on Monday, according to the newspaper, quote, with stragglers rushing to get in their belongings into their vehicles. Police drove through residential areas using loudspeakers and sirens to order people to leave and directing them to head north on heavily congested Highway 50, along the east shore of Tahoe as the main route of the town. The Bee reported. Jason Pohl, a journalist at the newspaper, called the miles of standstill traffic an emergency manager's nightmare. And this is interesting down here, guys. It said that they even, because Tahoe is a very famous ski resort where a bunch of rich white folk go to spend money and congregate and slide down hills on skis. They actually had to turn on their snowmaking machines, which are these big fans that spout all this water into the air in the winter to create more snow. They turned those on to try to keep the fire at bay. It's like, I feel for these people that had to evacuate their homes, but for the love of God, rich people, how many ski hills and ski resorts do we have to allow to burn to the ground? I mean, is it going to take all the golf courses catching fire for you guys to take this seriously? Oh my God, the golf courses are on fire and the ski resorts are on fire. What are the rich people going to do? I don't know. It's finally hitting home for these people, isn't it? Oh my gosh, all those $1 million homes in Lake Tahoe that are now ablaze. It's too bad. It really is too bad, you know. If all these people that were ultra-capitalists that made all of their fortunes off of polluting the earth, imagine how they feel right now. Their 10-car garage just burned to the ground. So I don't want to poo-poo it. I make jokes along the way. But seriously, I mean, how many of these golf courses do we have to lose? How many Starbuckses must burn to the ground before we actually take climate change seriously, for the love of God. I mean, if a yacht were affected by this, if there were Lake Tahoe were on fire because there was oil there, like the what was it called, the Deepwater Horizon, or yeah, I think it's the Deepwater Horizon, the oil spill that caught the entire ocean on fire around it, maybe they would start taking it seriously. Man, their helicopter garage just gets burned to the ground. Oh, what a shame. Anyway, I don't want to belittle it. Of course, I don't want anybody to lose their houses, of course, but you know, at some point these rich people are also going to start seeing some of their stuff get affected by climate change. And I think some of them actually see the writing on the wall with some of the things that they're doing, not only to this nation but to the earth. That's why you see a lot of them suddenly building these underground bunkers. I don't know if you all have seen that. They're all just gonna torch the surface of the earth, and then like either fuck off to Elon Musk's Mars billionaire haven hotel where all of the outcasts from Earth get to go for the meager sum of $1 billion entry fee, or they're going to have to go into their underground bunkers and batten down the hatches so that us people that are on the surface can't break through their doors and, you know, do God knows what to them for destroying the earth. So I think they see the writing on the wall, and I think the fact that they're planning all of this stuff, like going underground or going into space, tells you everything you need to know about whether or not they're going to actually correct their behavior. So Biden's not going to do a damn thing. I don't really know what to do on the climate crisis, because it's one of those things where if we changed our habits today and shut down all these corporations that create all of these ozone-depleting gases today, we could probably get out ahead of it. And most scientists say that like 20 to 30 years from now, the weather events would start to normalize again and we get out of this cycle. The air quality, however, would immediately improve, which we know that because it happened during COVID, during the lockdowns, all the air quality immediately improved and was very, very clean right after we shut down a lot of these big businesses. But that's not going to happen. We're not going to be able to change our culture and change the way that humanity operates overnight. The only way that we would be able to actually fix this is legislatively, by forcing our politicians to do it. And if they don't do it, the way that we're going to have to force them to will be beyond protest, and I don't think they want that. And I think they know it. That's why they're creating these bunkers underground and the hotels on Mars. So not good news, guys. All of this stuff points to something I've been yelling for a decade now, and that we've known since, ExxonMobil has known this since the 70s. They covered up the evidence that they knew that their fossil fuels were being burned and were causing climate change, and they covered it up and ran interference against it for the last 50 years. We know that this is man-made. We know that it's going to get worse, and we have no choice but to try to keep the industrial or the temperature from getting to that point of no return, which they say in 8 years is about when we'll get there, 1.5 C above pre-industrial levels. We're at 1.2 right now. Even if we really got Biden to take a step forward on this, like the Thrive Act, that still wouldn't be enough. And he's not even considering that. So thank a vote blue no matter who person today, a Bidenite as I call them, because this is exactly what we warned them was going to happen, and they're getting exactly what they paid for. But thank God Trump's not in there, right? Because my goodness, he'd be doing such a bad job on climate change. Trumpists think Bidenites are morons. Bidenites think Trumpists are morons. I think they're both right. Keep fighting the good fight out there, guys. I'll talk to you later.